Girl is panicking after accidentally releasing this interview, and she had a terrible slip up, which may have just incriminated herself and her team.
Half the money, it was supposed to go like into my charity. That's really why I agreed to do it.
Because suddenly, she's not as innocent as what she's trying to paint herself out as, or at least, at the very least, her team isn't. So things have apparently gotten really bad for the Tuah girl to the point where they're clearly panicking and they have no idea what to do to get her career back on track, as she went from zero to suddenly having one of the largest social media podcasts in the world, all within a year of making a simple BJ joke. I'm not joking. The internet is just a fascinating place. She went from being like oddly adored to a bit of a laughingstock, then back to being adored, and now she's fallen off the face of the earth due to some incredibly short-sighted business decisions, like launching a hawk.
This could have all been avoided so fucking easily. Holy shit, bro. Like, it's insane to see this happen. Because you have someone who's literally been handed a golden opportunity at like pretty much an easy next 2 to 5 years. And they just fuck it up entirely in less than a month. It's insane.
Tuah coin. Again, it's safe to say the internet is just a fascinating place, but almost as fast as she got her career, it was all put into jeopardy because she didn't have the foresight to not launch a crypto token. And not only did she launch a crypto token, it was also done in the sleaziest way possible to net the people behind the scenes as much money as possible.
Well, yeah, of course. That's the whole point of these things, right? It's get the money, of course.
As quickly as possible. So, on December 4th, 2024, Haley Welch, aka the Tuah girl, but I'll be...
See, I always want to ask why. But in this case, like, I don't even think there is an answer to why. Apart from, like, greed and, like, stupidity. Which seems... to, like, someone with an actual brain seems, like, insane. Like, how can you think that way? But these people are just clearly not thinking about the next 5 years. Like, at all. They just like don't even think that exists.
Referring to her as Haley for the rest of the video, and her team launched the Tuah coin. Obviously, anyone with a brain would steer clear of that, but unfortunately, apparently there are more people lacking a brain than expected. The thing blasted to north of a $400 million market cap. That's insane, until it went into free fall like 10 minutes later. Like, it was basically over in not even an hour after launch. That chart is just brutal. Everything about this just screams crime. And that's where the community started to put things together, how things just don't really add up here. It seems like the team rugged that thing. And if it wasn't the team, it was insiders, which, you know, the team kind of set up. So the crypto community got into this large Twitter space where CoffeeZilla was one of the main speakers, FaZe Banks was speaking, and a handful of other influencers and crypto community members. And that's where we found out the team behind it hired Haley, paid her roughly $100,000 to use her likeness to promote the coin. And that will turn out to be the most expensive 100 grand of Haley's life, as it clearly jeopardized her entire career. Then to make things...
Yeah, why would you do this for 100K? What? Surely she could have gotten more just by doing the podcast for like a year, right? Like over time, she would have accrued so much more than that.
Worse, they had a big Twitter space where Haley and the team behind it tried to talk themselves out of essentially looting her audience for a quick buck. And that's where one of the founders essentially said that they needed to do so to pay for the expenses of setting up all of this through the Cayman Islands, which is a...
Through the Cayman Islands. Oh, well, what happens there? Oh boy. Oh boy. Not tax evasion, surely, right?
Hilarious answer. Imagine...
The funny part is I'm watching like Ozarks right now, and like there's so many references to like Cayman accounts and all that sort of shit. So it's like, yep, well,
claiming you allegedly scam people so you could pay for setting up your company offshore to allegedly scam people. What a great explanation. Really shows the character here. But at the end of the day, all these coins are vehicles for speculation. And some of these individuals in the crypto community who scan this stuff for 12 hours a day, they make a bunch of money off of the brand new people that Haley and a bunch of other influencers and celebrities bring into the space. And don't even get me started on the president and first lady making their own coins as well. And
oh dear, yeah, I forgot about that totally. But yeah, that did happen. And then there was a preacher that like stepped out of the, I guess, I don't know where they had their like celebration / inauguration thing, but he literally steps out the door and then records his own like crypto coin scam video. It's insane.
now allegedly a nation in Africa, but currently there's a lot of speculation if that's actually real or not. Overall, just an absolute dumpster fire of a situation. The only bright side is, at least it's a slightly entertaining dumpster fire of a situation. So she ends this community confrontation call by saying this.
Hey guys, I hate to interrupt you, Nick, but
Dude, this is like one of the funniest clips ever.
hello there. But anywho, I'm gonna go to bed, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
And that slumber lasted for months. She hasn't posted a podcast episode until now, but they deleted it like right away, like within an hour. Optics wise, they played this extremely poorly. This woman shouldn't have had anything to do with running her own crypto coin.
How do you feel?
I don't know. I'm still a little shook up about it.
How was the nap?
It's a very long nap. I would say that's what sucks about it too. I had to read that off a phone and like put it in my words, and I was like, anywho, I'm going to bed.
Well, there she confirmed that she was also used as a scapegoat for accountability, which makes that statement even funnier, that things were going so bad for the team that they told her to make this BS excuse to end the space. But before we get to
Really? Well, I believe that. And I would believe that she would go for it.
her official statement, I want to give a quick shout out to today's sponsor, Raycon. Since over the last couple of months, I've been traveling a lot. Now I would assume it's the same with you guys, but music is an absolute must when I'm flying, especially a headset or earbuds with noise cancellation. And that's where today's sponsor, Raycon, comes in, because I've now been able to try out the Raycon everyday earbuds for a little bit over a month now, and I've used them while flying, skiing, and working out. They sit super comfortably in your ears like that, and I mean, like, there's no way you're shaking them out while you're working out or anything like that. The noise cancellation is phenomenal. And I mean, like, for half the price of the competition, it's such a good deal. These are getting active noise cancellation, which works wonders on a flight, 32-hour battery life. And then on top of that, only 10 minutes of charging gives 90 minutes of battery, which is a massive bonus if you have a very active lifestyle or you're just traveling a lot. They're also IP66 waterproof, so they won't be destroyed from either sweat or an accidental laundry wash. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can get all of this for less than $70, and you can check them out at buyraycon.com/Atozy, which will be in the description down below. And that gives you 20% off and join 3 million other people who've bought Raycon. And I mean, hey, if you don't fall in love with them instantly, you can always use their 30-day happiness guaranteed return policy with no questions asked. But without further ado, let's continue the video. Here's her official statement.
Well, so basically how this idea got brought to me, it was supposed to be like a, what do they call it, a long-term coin. And the guy that ran the account, he was like, oh, we're going to change.
A long-term coin? What does that even mean? I'm not big on crypto, but to me that doesn't start well.
It's like the way everybody thinks of crypto is going to be a good place. And I feel really bad for all the people that got affected by it, and it just didn't go the way I planned. And all the money out of this episode is getting donated to all the animals that have been affected by the fires up here.
I mean, that's cool and all, but it really shouldn't have been launched in the first place. But here is what she alleged that she was offered, or her team alleges that she was offered.
The deal that she did was like a brand image likeness deal where they paid her $125,000 up front. They were supposed to pay her $200,000 after the launch of the coin within 30 days. She was supposed to have full transparency to tokenomics and everything going on, which they did stay in communication about it, but it just was an ever-evolving game plan, essentially. So back-end participation was to always be mutually agreed, and what they had agreed on in the tokenomics was there was a 10% allocation of the token that would be on a 1-year lock and then a 3-year drip after that. Of that 10%, half of that was supposed to go to the company that created the project and half was to go to her. So out of 100% of the token, she would have had 5% at the end. Obviously, she has lawyer, manager, business manager, so even that 5% would have been cut down by over a quarter due to people that she has to pay out on her non-crypto.
So all the structure you just described, what happened to all that?
It's not like it has dissolved.
Why did they pick FaZe Banks to have this conversation with, by the way? I'm not like, because I know they sent an email to CoffeeZilla to try and get him on like the podcast, or like they DM'd him on Twitter. I don't know, one of the two. But like, why do they pick FaZe Banks in the end for this? Like, this is, to me, that's weird, but okay.
On on launch, 3% of the token was made available for public trading. A lot of this information we found out since the launch, we as in Haley's internal non-crypto team. But 17% was given to pre-sale investors, 2/3 of which approximately sold the day.
Yep.
The fact that they even did a pre-sale launch for a meme token shows how much of a cash grab this is. Normally, pre-sales in like the traditional crypto space, they're to fund some creation of a product. Then once the product is finished, the token is then listed. But here, it's a meme coin. So there's no product to fund. Hence why this just...
I wasn't even thinking like in the crypto space. I was thinking like in general. Pre-sale is valid for like products, right? Like pre-sale on a game, like pre-purchase COD or whatever the hell it is, right? Like that happens. But why would you pre-sell nothing? You're pre-selling what do they call it? Speculation, I guess, in like financial terms.
Just a massive sketchy cash grab.
So there is 20% in circulation.
And just to be clear about where you kind of jumped into this, you were telling us in the back room that this kind of all was happening even without you really knowing or having view on any of it until post. You know, you're
Who is he talking to?
handling the cleanup and trying to protect Haley and trying to do right by Haley now, but you didn't have
Is he a lawyer, producer? What is he?
the opportunity to like.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
I negotiated the contract with the company. We have like accounting transparency rules and requirements that I added to the contract. SEC compliance requirements I added into the contract that they would have to do as project manager. And so we continued to inquire all along the process about the tokenomics. It was kind of a shifting narrative and explanation of tokenomics. The most recent tokenomics that were given to us prior to the launch had the pre-sale investors being on a 1-month lock with a 1-year drip after that. That's pretty obvious on chain. That didn't happen.
Okay, so if what they are saying is true, it seems like they got into business with some crypto grifters looking to make a quick buck. But then the guy sitting next to her proposed that she should just punt 125 grand back into the coin and promote it again.
If you took all the money that you made from the deal, whatever, and just like bought back the coin and then locked it up, I feel like that's a very like clear action that you can make, back to the
Would this help? I'm not understanding how this would help.
community. And I think that would just like stamp it and the community can run with it. So
Yeah, you don't need to be a PR expert to realize that's a terrible idea. What is the point of that? So that some crypto nerds can extract more money out of her fans' pockets? I really
Yeah, I'm like, really, what? Why would you suggest this? What the hell?
do not like the idea of celebrity meme coins because it's just a vehicle for speculation, which always ends as a value extraction from said person's fan base. Clearly, Haley is down bad here, and I don't think this advice is in her best interest either. But Banks then asks how much money they made in total from this project.
As far as narrative goes and a gesture, I mean, you just nailed that, by the way. And that would be, you mentioned it earlier, 125,000 plus 100.
This is what I mean. Like, why is Banks on here? Like, I'm sorry, I have no hate against him, but is he like some crypto guru that I'm unaware of? Because I don't think he is, as far as I know.
1,000 or
He ran Phase for like ever. I don't even know. I know he took back Phase recently, and he like fired like half of the creators that were working on Phase. Justified, unjustified, not for me to say, but that is something he did.
what did I hear?
Yeah. So
How much total money has been received due to this?
125,000 has
Been received.
been received.
Yeah. Basically what Frank just said in normal people terms.
I guess Banks wasn't fully interested in the real answer because he cut him off. Banks really should have pressed for that full answer because it seems like there's more to it, as we'll find out through CoffeeZilla later on. But then he goes,
Yeah. This is again like what like I understand picking Banks for like Haley's point of view, right? Because he's not going to be the best interviewer. He's not really going to push her on stuff that he should push her on. And he probably doesn't like, he probably has way more knowledge than me about crypto. So if I did this interview, it possibly could go even worse. But like, Yeah, this is not a great interview. And again, like having CoffeeZilla do it would have been great. Or if they have another person that would be even a little bit less antagonistic towards them, less personal, maybe. I don't know.
Goes back and kind of shills what Frank said.
Is you take every dollar that you made on this and you mark it by this token and you lock it up. You walk away from it. You don't ever see that money. You can never touch it again. And you say, I'm not going to talk about this every day, whatever, but I'm going to stand on business. I put my face on this. I'm accepting the responsibility that this happened. And hopefully, everybody is made whole at some point where you guys do what you want with this at this point. Yeah. This is me kind of like, you know what I mean? And what that does is it kind of shows your intentions, right? Like I just want to do right by this and everybody who participated in this.
I don't think that will make.
I get his point, but the first thing that should have happened is she should have just never made the coin. She should have never tried to get this deal. Like a normal person who had a head on their shoulders would hear the word crypto and be like, crypto audience? And then you're like, nah, I'm checked out. Like, nah, I'm not doing this. Because at this point, it's like, how many rug pulls has there been with like content creators or influencers? It's like too many to count. At some point, you got to think like, well, why would mine be any different? And it just seems like she never wondered why hers would be any different for some reason. Yeah.
Anything right. It just incites a new wave of speculation that will inevitably end the exact same way. And speaking of speculation, right before this episode leaked, the coin 4x'd in value and then immediately dumped again after this episode leaked. So that's really not a good look for the Haley team. And then out of nowhere, you had Banks tweet this. So in an attempt to hear Haley Welch's side of the crypto scam story, I agreed to do her first podcast back. I had heavy stipulations, including not allowing markets to be manipulated by leaking this episode's in existence before a resolution was found. 2, her team finding a real solution regarding the money she made, where that should go, and what to do with the Hawk project moving forward. These were non-starters, I'm assuming he's trying to say non-negotiables, and we were told this episode would ever see the light of day if we explicitly greenlit it. These incompetent dudes leaked and or inside traded the token. We noticed a random spike in volume on the 2 of 2 alongside of the random messages asking us if we did the podcast. Very clearly, her team was not as solid as they claimed to be. They completely blew it, and we called the episode off right then and there. Yeah, and then, I mean, that aligns with the chart we just showed here. And now today, the episode randomly gets leaked. The price of Hawk is pumping, and they're completely fumbling the bag. Yet again, what a mess. Poor girl. It's a wonder how she found herself in this position in the first place. Now, Haley, I'm going to speak to you direct and say the exact same thing I said to you on Spaces that night. Fire everybody. Full disclosure, nobody from our team has ever/will ever own Hawk tokens. Highly advise anyone following the story to stay far away from this, as a majority of this supply is owned by unknown developers. I love how they have like a bunch of developers, even though the token doesn't do anything. You don't really need devs to just deploy a meme token, especially not enough to have like a whole like laundry list of unlisted developers. But I mean, overall, that was a reasonable response from Banks.
Yeah, that actually was. And like adding that context is good. I don't think this blows back on Banks at all. Like, I don't think he looks bad. I think, sure, you could argue like his idea of just like committing to the like shit coin is pretty bad. Like, I just don't think it's good. I think at this point, you want to get yourself as far away from like legal troubles. So if there's any ways that you can keep that from happening, then you do that. And then you just kind of wash your hands of it and you say sorry and you move on. Because, yeah, it's just a bad situation overall. It just is. And people make stupid choices. I don't think that anybody should like necessarily forgive this girl for like being greedy and not giving a shit about her audience. I think it does show her true colors to an extent, that because she has the level of fame that she got in the time span that she got it, she probably doesn't value her audience like at all. And she doesn't think that it's important to be like treat them like actual people that they are. So yeah,
compared to how he was in the podcast. I guess he switched up as he learned more details after the podcast, but honestly, who knows? But that's not the only bad news for the Hawk Tuah team, as CoffeeZilla, who really was the most prominent critic in the original Twitter space, made a follow-up since he's been investigating the situation for a while. And now things look even worse for Haley, because he was the first to notice that she had this slip up in this leaked podcast.
Like half the money, it was supposed to go like into my charity. That's really why I agreed to do it.
Did you hear that?
Like half the money.
Half the money. Now that's very interesting. That's very different from what we've been told, which is like, oh, it's just 125K.
So then he could
Yeah.
continue digging around that.
They're trying to be like, oh, we barely made a dime. And that's just not true. Like, that's not what they stood to make.
Okay. Does he read it?
I said, what do you mean? You told me I could disregard what Doc said. Remember, he said, oh, you can disregard it. But y'all literally had a contract for 50% of net proceeds. Doc himself said the project was going to cost a few $100,000. If that's the case, pre-sale $2.8 million, fees $1 million, made almost $4 million. Y'all are contractually owed like $1.6 million. And then I shared another insider text I have from Doc Hollywood, where he says, what we can do is put a hard number to the side for the project as cost. Like we spent a few $100,000 on the project already. That money will be paid back to us off top. Then the profit is paid out. If a few $100,000 is what it costs and the profit's paid out, who's the profit entitled to?
So it seems like they are now playing hot potato with that money, because clearly there's a lot of negative connotations with it. And because there's now lawsuits, they likely don't want that money anymore. So if all this is true, this will eventually come out in that lawsuit if they don't settle. And accidentally leaking this podcast.
So she's getting sued by like, it's like a class action lawsuit, I would assume, right? It's not like a criminal lawsuit. So
just made everything so much worse for them. This podcast shouldn't have been released in the first place. They should have never recorded it. She just should have made like a blank term apology, donated the money as she claims that she did. Little did we know though that she was allegedly entitled to a whole lot more, like $1 million more. Either way, I mean, she should have just moved on with her regular program.
yeah, everything about this situation was mishandled completely.
And not reintroduced herself back into the crypto world, because at the end of the day, her audience isn't a bunch of crypto nerds. It's just casual people.
Yeah, it's like casual TikTok viewers who stumbled across her like personality or whatever the hell you want to call it and followed her, like assuming she was like one of them, when realistically, I mean, she was sort of one of them, but then believed that she was more than them.
Who don't care about this stuff at all. Because let's be real, she got famous over a BJ catchphrase. And then she kept her relevance by having a very unserious podcast where she's done incredibly well until this point. But either way, Haley needs to fire her entire team after this disaster. Anything to...
That's the thing too, is because she's been like catapulted to such a level of fame, she has no idea how to handle any of this. She doesn't know how to build like a proper team. She doesn't know like what the longevity or how to attain longevity in the space and how to rebuild herself if she loses popularity. Like she just has no idea what she's doing. And clearly she has like all the wrong possible people to help her figure it out, which is bad. Like at this point, I don't get the whole meme coin thing. I just don't understand how you could think that's a good idea, no matter who talks it up, after seeing so many different controversies with other people getting themselves into hot water or getting canceled, like whatever it is. And you think, well, that's not going to be me. It's like, how do you possibly think that? Like, I just don't get that part.
This coin is a terrible idea for her brand, and anyone who recommended this to her does not have her best interests in mind. It will definitely be interesting to see what happens with this lawsuit and just the situation overall moving forward. I don't think her core audience cares enough about the situation, so the sooner she just fires everyone involved with this whole crypto project.
I think she survives this, to be honest. Like, my guess is like give it like 6 months, nobody's going to be talking about it. And if she just stays the course and does her podcast, I don't think anybody gives a shit. I think people just move on, and that's kind of that, right?
And continues her regular content, the better. And the better her chances are for recovering her career. But only time will tell what really happens to the Hawk Tuah girl. At least she didn't do a TikTok prank like these morons did, who are now facing up to 10 years in prison, which is also just an insane story I would recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're gonna watch this now. So anyways, catch you in the next one. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and yeah, see you later.